Yeah, nah. Alright, much better. Hey guys, welcome back. So during the 5 weeks lockdown here in Melbourne, I've had the opportunity to go back and watch some of the classics which I may have missed growing up. And one of the movies I watched was The Sound of Music. And I gotta tell you, I absolutely loved it. There is a reason why this movie is an absolute classic. There is a reason why this movie was nominated for 10 Oscars and won 5 of them, including Best Picture. Julie Andrews was just so lovable and passionate, and also I did not realize that Christopher Plummer looked so suave when he was younger. I swear to God, to me he's kind of like Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine, like, you know, like one of those actors who's always been old. May he rest in peace. Yeah, in this movie, even the child actors were really good. And of course, the unforgettable music. I will totally play it right now, but I don't want to get flagged for copyright. This is a really long movie though. It has almost a 3-hour runtime, I believe. Kind of like all the classic movies from back in those days. They're all very long and has an intermission. Holy shit, Gone with the Wind is like 4 hours, what the f? There's drama, romance, music, and towards the end, even a little bit of political thriller. There are many incredible scenes throughout this movie. However, there's this one scene that really caught my attention, and it's not too long after the beginning of the film. This scene really made me admire the thoughtfulness of the filmmakers behind this movie. And the scene I'm talking about is the scene where Maria leaves the Abbey and is on her way to see the Von Trapp family. It's a very simple scene, yet it's so perfectly done. There are a few different elements throughout this scene that just perfectly complement each other. The structure of the scene, the music, and the combination of them with the visual elements of the scene. So I think you guys will agree with me that every scene in a movie should have a purpose. Whether it is to reveal something about the character or push a narrative forward, either way, the scene should have an impact on the overall narrative of the film. A good way to think about this is, if you were to cut a scene out from the movie, will it make a difference? I mean, if it doesn't make a difference, then the scene hasn't accomplished anything, right? Which means it can be cut out from the film. Also, to some extent, I know this is not always the case, but I feel like each scene should function as a mini narrative in and of itself. So every scene should kind of have like a beginning, middle, and end, and you should feel like the characters are at a different place at the end of the scene than they were at the beginning of the scene, and thus pushing the entire narrative forward. Like something should have changed by the end of the scene, whether the character realizes something, learns something, is in a different place, or, you know, the scene should do something. Now, back to Sound of Music. Let's talk about the structure first. So this scene starts off with Maria leaving the Abbey. And in the first half of the scene, she is worried, she's scared, she's confused as to why she isn't excited for the adventure that's right in front of her, even though she's always longed for one. And as the scene progresses, she tries to reassure herself, and eventually she realizes why she isn't excited. And the reason is because she's lacking confidence, she's worried that she might not be able to serve the family with reliance, and she might not be worthy. So as she realizes the reason that, you know, she's lacking courage, she decides to change her attitude and give herself the confidence and courage she needed. This is a very pivotal moment of the character throughout the scene, and it happens exactly halfway through. And from that point onwards, in the second half of the scene, despite the concerns and worries she had, Maria decides to face the challenge, be positive, she boosts her own morale, and at the end of the scene, she arrives at Baron Von Trapp's house, ready to take on the children. Notice how this scene pushes the narrative forward. Maria goes through a mini character arc, and throughout the scene, there's also a narrative arc, a beginning, middle, and end. At the beginning, she's unsure, worried, she lacks confidence and courage. So in the middle of the scene, or the climax, she faces an important decision between staying worried and concerned, or being more confident and positive. And the scene ends with her feeling confident and ready to take on the challenge. You can see how this scene is so well structured, but of course, a lot of the credit goes to the songwriters, as this scene is basically Maria singing. It's kind of like an internal monologue, and we kind of see how her character progresses. On top of all this, what makes this scene really perfect is how the visual elements that we see on screen forms a perfect marriage with the narrative of the scene. So in order to fully appreciate this, we have to understand lateral character movement. So in films, it can be quite obvious when characters are shot with low angles, it makes them look tall, and therefore they seem more powerful, daunting, and scary. Whereas high angle shots make the characters look small, insignificant and thus they seem weaker. However, when it comes to characters moving left and right, things becomes much less obvious. The channel Now You See It has a really good video on lateral character movement. I'll link it in the description below. Definitely one of my favorite video essay channels on YouTube. But yeah, to sum things up, essentially when a character walks from left to right, it is seen as forward progression in time. The character is heading towards the future or a journey towards the objective. It is a lot more comfortable and feels a lot more normal to the viewer. It can be interpreted as the characters are forward looking. So put it into even more simpler words, it's essentially seen as good or positive. And conversely, when a character walks from right to left, it creates a completely different feeling. It is often used to show a character going back to somewhere they were before, or perhaps they are looking back on previous event. It can also make the viewers feel uneasy, anxious, or suspenseful. Now, with this knowledge, let's go through the scene again. Remember at the beginning of the scene, Maria is unsure, worried, and confused. Notice how she walks towards the camera, looks right, but then turns left, suggesting that she is still caught up in the past and is not ready to face the future. She then stops and looks right at the cross on the wall, hoping that the Lord will show her the way. Also a very nice visual motif of light and dark, where most of the frame is filled with darkness and shadow, including Maria herself, while the cross on the wall is illuminated by a streak of sunlight. So it's visually telling us that Maria is lost in the dark and she is looking to God as the light that will guide her out of this tunnel. Watch how she continues to walk facing the left side of the screen. I also love how she sings "To be out in the world" exactly as she takes her first step out of the gate of the Abbey. So in this entire sequence, when Maria is feeling unsure, nervous, and confused, she walks right to left on the screen. And as she stops to sing about the captain and the 5 children, she looks to the right side of the screen, since they are her new goal, her new objective, and they're set in the future. And then as she sings, "Oh, I must stop these doubts, all these worries," the camera frames her in the center, and we see her walking towards us, and her figure increases in size on the screen. This is visually suggesting that she is gaining more confidence. Also notice that after she decides to be more confident, she no longer walks from right to left. She is now facing the camera, walking towards us, so she has decided not to be worried and nervous anymore, but rather to be more confident and have more courage. And just as she finishes a line, "I'll make them see I have confidence in me," the camera cuts to her in a bus traveling left to right, suggesting that she is no longer caught up in her worries in the past. She is now forward-looking, filled with determination, and ready to take on her new adventure. So as the scene progresses from beginning to end, her character movement on screen also changes. She goes from moving right to left to walking towards us, then left to right. This perfectly parallels the song as well as the narrative arc of the scene, as she sings with confidence that she'll find a way to impress the family and all the children will look up to her. It's so simple and yet so perfect. As the scene progresses from beginning, middle to end, not only her character attitude changes and the scene pushes the narrative forward, but the visual elements also matches with that gradual change in character. Just a brilliant use of classic filmmaking techniques that really emphasize the character's emotions, her growth, and narrative arc throughout the scene. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comment below. Get a discussion going. And as always, thumbs if you liked the video, subs if you haven't already, and go watch Sound of Music if you haven't yet.